Ahmad, known our moderator for this session, who is our former Dean of Abdul Hamid Sulaiman Kulia of Islamic Review Knowledge and Human Science, and also serving as an academic at the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. Dinner members, academics, staff, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Welcome to the Abdul Hamid Sulaiman Kulia of Islamic Review Knowledge and Human Science Ibadat Camp Talk Series number 2, 2022. I'm Imran Semudu, a PhD student from the Department of Communication, and I'll be your master of ceremony for this session. Inshallah, we begin our session with Kitab Al-Fatiha. Bismillah.
إياك
Ameen. Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After performing Jumat prayer, we have this opportunity to meet virtually in this special session and listen to some reminders from our esteemed speaker. We have hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect us from any calamities and shower his mercy and blessings upon us all the time. Ameen. Without further delay, I would like to invite Prof. Dr. Shukran Abdul Rahman, Dean of Abdul Hamid Sulaiman Kulia of Revealed Knowledge and Human Science to deliver his speech.
Thank you very much, brother MC. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin. Amma ba'd. My dear beloved Professor Dr. Anis Ahmad, former Dean, also the Vice Chancellor of Refah University, Pakistan, Dr. Hazizan Muhammad Noor, the moderator for the talk series for today, deanery members, brothers and sisters, my colleagues, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a good afternoon to all of you. I would like to take this opportunity to, on behalf of the Kuliah, now the Kuliah's name is Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman, Kuliah of Islamic Review Knowledge and Human Sciences, to welcome back our beloved Professor Anis to this gathering, although it is only a virtual gathering. Right, Professor Anis, we have met and learned from you in the year 2019 when we had a session with all former deans. Now, after 3 years, we are coming back to you, here to listen from you, here to be inspired again from you, especially on how we should position ourselves in this very fundamental and important kuliah. So my colleagues, since we have the founder, I think one of the founders of this kuliah will learn and will benefit from his great thought today. Being the incumbent of academic positions in kuliah, we know that our tasks, our duties, our responsibilities are to make sure that we accomplish the missions of the kuliah, which correspond very well to the missions of the university, right? So I think every day we have been dealing with, we have been talking about, we have been deliberating and sometimes debating on our tasks, our duties, our responsibilities with regard to work, with regard to work processes as well. But today, I would like to bring our attention to another scope. Okay, we look at another scope which is not task, duties, and responsibilities, but roles. Right? What roles do we play being academics in this very unique kuliah? And I believe the best person to do this, okay, is Professor Anis Ahmad, right, who has actually laid the important foundation for the direction of the kuliah about 32 years ago. Right, so thank you again, Professor Anis, for your readiness, for your commitment to be with us this afternoon. Right, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, the organizer. Okay, Ibadah Camp, Dr. Noh and his team members. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof. Shukran, for the speech. Distinguished guests, now I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Hazizan Muhammad Noor from the Department of Sociology and Anthropology to moderate the session. Please, you're welcome, Doctor.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Thank you, Brother Imran, the MC. The Honorable Dean of Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman Kuliah of Islamic European Knowledge and Human Sciences, Professor Dr. Shukran Abdul Rahman, Chairman of the Kuliah Ibadah Camp Program 2022, Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Noh Abdul Jalil and his committee members, the Honorable respected invited speaker for today's session, Professor Dr. Anis Ahmad, the Vice Chancellor of Rifat International University, Islamabad, Kuliahs and departments management teams, academic and administrative staff, alumni of the Kuliah, students, undergraduate and postgraduate, brothers and sisters. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Let us express our thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for only by His grace and mercy, alhamdulillah, we are able to meet today on this blessed Friday to listen to a talk by our former dean, Professor Dr. Anis Ahmad. I am in dilemma to conduct today's session because for us here in Malaysia, alhamdulillah, we have already performed Friday prayer. But for our honorable speaker, he has to rush to the mosque after this. So my dilemma is to read the long or lengthy CV of the speaker and also to give him enough time or longer time to enlighten us on the various aspects and thoughts that he has so that we can benefit from this. Therefore, to strike the balance, I will only read a few sentences of his background. And to what I call is to maximize the benefit from this session, we will give Professor Anis more time to speak, and later we will have question and answer session. Professor Anis informed us just now that he would like to have more interaction than he gives the talk on his side only. So I will skip my background remarks, connecting the program that we have, a series of background or series of sessions for Ibadah Camp 2022. But the what you call this, the situation that we are in now is to listen to a talk by Professor Dr. Anis. The topic is the roles of academics in Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman Kuliah of Islamic European Knowledge and Human Sciences. So I will just give a brief introduction of Professor Anis, and I believe Professor Anis does not need any introduction because he is a very famous scholar worldwide. However, taking from what is stated in the website of Rifah University. I will simply read this. Professor Dr. Anis Ahmad is a social scientist of international repute and founding Vice Chancellor of Rifah International University, Islamabad, Pakistan. He carries a PhD from the Temple University, Pennsylvania, USA. He has held numerous academic leadership positions, both nationally and internationally. He is a former Vice President of International Islamic University, Islamabad, and founding Dean, Faculty of Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, International Islamic University, Malaysia, I believe together with Honorable Tan Sri Professor Muhammad Kamal Hassan. He is a former President and Secretary General of Association of Muslim Social Scientists, USA, and a Fellow of the University of Science, Malaysia. He writes on contemporary social, political, and cultural issues faced by the Muslim Ummah. He has contributed articles in the Oxford Encyclopedia of the Modern Muslim World, New York, the Encyclopedia of Islam, Istanbul, Turkey, the Encyclopedia of Islamic Economy, London, the Muslim World Book Review, UK, and other professional journals. So I think these are some of the aspects of our speaker today that I would like to mention, other than knowing that he is currently Vice Chancellor of the Rifah International University, Islamabad. He we know that he's a former dean. And today we are going to listen from him, his ideas, his thoughts, his experiences. And this is particularly important because in the beginning years of the establishment of this kuliah, Professor Anis observed all this development. So for us now, after a long journey throughout these years, perhaps it is also very important now to listen to the founder, among the founders of this kuliah. And therefore, I would like to humbly now invite Professor Dr. Anis to enlighten us and share his experiences and knowledge on this title, The Roles of Academic in Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman, Kuliah of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Science. And for the participants to make it more, to benefit from this short session, I would like you to straight away write the questions or the inputs that you want to get feedback from the speaker in the chat box. So with that, Prof. فليتفضل مشكورا.
شكرا. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. My dear brother, Professor Dr. Shukran, Dean of the Kuliah, my dear brother, Dr. Azizan, the head of Sociology Department, my dear colleagues and faculty members, and all those who are joining here, I take it as an extreme honor and pleasure to be among you, although virtually. But it's a great honor for me to spend some time with you on a topic which has always been dear to my heart. Professor Hizan has mentioned about the founding period of the Kuliah. I'll come to it, but before that, I want to greet the Dean, Professor Shukran, and his team for keeping the tradition of Ibadah camps alive. Ibadah camps preceded creation of Kuliah, Islamic Revealed Knowledge, Human Sciences. And the idea was that Ibadah and Ilm are not two separate domains. An abd is a person who excels in submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by observing rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ibadah in everything, ibadah in masjid as well as ibadah in marketplace. Therefore, an abd is not a slave of capitalism, not a slave of self-desires, but a slave of Allah in marketplace. Therefore, ibadah is not confined to a masjid, to a shrine, to a sanctuary. But ibadah means consciously trying to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all aspects of life. Therefore, survival and continuation of ibadah camps, in my view, is revival and continuation of the spirit of the Kulliyah. This was the spirit which ultimately resulted into the Kulliyah. And for that, I must pay my personal compliments to Professor Kamal, my very dear brother. We have known each other from university days when he was a student and I was doing my PhD, and we lived together, traveled together in America and elsewhere. Then I worked with him when he was a rector of the Islamic University Malaysia, and also member of the Faculty of Islamic Arabic Knowledge and Human Sciences as a professor. So I have a long association with him, and his contribution has been remarkable in Ibadah camps and creation of a team which was able to create this Kulliyah. With those few introductory remarks, let me come to the topic. The topic, what is the role of academics in this Kulliyah, has 4 different dimensions. First and foremost, the context or reference is the Quranic ayah from Surah At-Tawbah, ayah number 122. The ayah talks about 4 important things. First and foremost, it talks about believers. Secondly, it talks about situations of conflict and crisis where the Islamic forces are faced with the forces of kufr, and a struggle, a jihad is taking place. Thirdly, it talks about Islam as deen and not as religion. And fourthly, it talks about what is the role of in-depth understanding of deen, tafaqquh fi deen. The first aspect is very clear. Alhamdulillah, in Malaysia, in many countries of the world, Muslims have a significant majority and role. As believers, they have certain obligations. And among those, first and foremost is seeking knowledge, talab al-ilm. But not just knowledge, but ilm an-nafi', knowledge which is carrying benefit based on the Quran and Sunnah, and benefits for the whole of humanity with the focus on Muslim Ummah. Therefore, ilm an-nafi' is that product which is expected from academicians and kulliyat. Now, how we produce ilm an-nafi'? Knowledge or ilm is often defined as an organized body of knowledge, information, and material. But collection of information does not make it meaningful. We can put together knowledge of sulfate, knowledge of an acid, knowledge of a glass, but that does not make sulfur nitrate unless a process takes place. Therefore, knowledge is a creative process. In that creative process, either we produce the so-called value neutral knowledge, which is the pride of Western paradigm of knowledge. Malaysia, Pakistan, Jordan, Turkey, name any country, they have been systematically under the colonial grip of Eurocentric empirical paradigm. Some countries were colonized, some were not colonized, but colonized intellectually. And this Eurocentrism, colonization of mind and soul, led to intellectual schizophrenia. Two lives of intellectual. One in the academic world, where academician was supposed to produce research papers of impact factor, nature, come up with participation in conferences, give extension lectures, do academic administration, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, when Friday comes, then this person should humble down in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by wearing a different dress. If he was dressed in three-piece suit, now he must have sarong, he must have shalwar, he must have a loose dress and appear in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that dress. But when the prayer is over, leave the dress and again assume the different appearance. It was not a matter of dress. It was a matter of mindset. When you are in masjid, you cannot be a proud person. You cannot be arrogant. You cannot be rebellious. You cannot be just an individual, but you are a humble, docile servant, bowing down in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying, Allah, you are A'la, you are Azam, you are Akbar. But when I leave my dress of prayer in masjid, or wrap it and put in my briefcase, and come back to academia, come back to stock market, come back to parliament, then what is my mindset? What rules are valid here? Does khutbah I heard makes any sense to me in my profession? Therefore, all those countries which were colonized or not colonized have been intellectually colonized for 2 centuries. The idea of developing this kulliyah goes back to early 70s when we established in America Association of Muslim Social Scientists, and as its founding Secretary General and later President, we had a series of discussions in which Dr. Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman, may Allah bless his soul, Dr. Ahmad Tutunji, Hisham Al-Talib, Tijani Abul Judairi, Dr. Ismail Raji Al-Faruqi, many others participated, and ultimately we developed an idea that knowledge which is neutral cannot be beneficial, but knowledge which is based on revealed guidance alone can help humanity. And that led to creation of IIIT, that led to creation of Indian Islamic University in Pakistan in 1980, and in 1983, IIU Malaysia. This was a continuation of a thought. It's not just a matter of accident. What was the job of this Kulliya? The Kulliya was made responsible from day one for integration and creation of knowledge. Therefore, we had faculty requirement courses, Kulliya university requirement courses, and elective courses. The whole idea was developed before Kulliya was established, and I was invited by Brother Abdul Hamid Suleiman, my very dear colleague and friend for many, many decades, and many others who remained for over a week in continuous discussions about the curriculum, about the course outlines, about what kind of environment we want to create, and that led ultimately to creation of the Kulliya. When the Kulliya was created, the idea was that if someone wants in social sciences to be a sociologist, anthropologist, political scientist, then there is no choice but to read books and writings which are printed in Cambridge and Oxford and Harvard and Princeton by their own professors. No choice. You must know what's happening. But is that ultimate political science and knowledge? Is that ultimate sociology? And whatever knowledge is given by those books, can that solve the so-called indigenous issues faced by a people in Kuala Lumpur, in Istanbul, in Jakarta, in Islamabad, in so many capitals of Muslim countries? Therefore, we developed a scheme of X number of credit hours to be done in one area of Islamic studies, say for example, in Usul Fiqh or in Fiqh, and X credit hours in the discipline where a student has registered in political science, sociology, English, or any other subject. And then a common requirement for all faculties of the university. Kulliya Revealed Knowledge was responsible for this overall requirement, and within the Kulliya, for developing material and delivering it, which can be integrated with political science, or with sociology, or with law, or with other subjects. That's what we mean by integration, integrated knowledge, or holistic knowledge. The idea was that if a person has done 6 or 9 courses of 3 credit hours in Islamic thought, Usulul Fiqh, and then this person is studying another 27 or 37 hours in political science, then the mental chemistry, which is based on this Islamic content and whatever the person has read from the so-called Eurocentric sources, cannot remain separated. This person is bound to think how this principle designed by Usuliyin in Fiqh has relevance with political science or sociology or not. And when this process starts, then ultimate product will be knowledge which is based on Islamic principles, but which is responding to issues like power sharing, social stratification, economic planning, the human psyche, and so on and so forth. That's what was the meaning of integration of knowledge. That Wahi Ilahi, coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Sunnah of the Prophet, This should be the basis of developing a very clear understanding of objective of life. Is objective of life just to become a professor, a dean, or a vice chancellor? Or is objective of life to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and achieve his pleasure or mardatillah? The ayah you have selected as theme for Ibadah Camp tells you very clearly that although going out and fighting in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, cause of Islam, fight in order to establish adl, justice, peace, security, is something very noble. And nothing can be higher than that jihad. But at the same time, they should remain a group of people who stay back and they go in-depth understanding of deen. They know deen from its sources, the Quran and Sunnah. And they know the Quran not just with translation, but with knowledge of Arabic language. Having understood that, now their job is not to keep this knowledge to themselves, but they disseminate this knowledge. So ayah says, when those who were involved in a struggle in jihad, when they are back, they caution them, they share with them this knowledge. The purpose of Kulliyah in the light of this ayah is very simple. First and foremost, define for ourselves that we do not mean by knowledge what exists in Princeton, Harvard, or in Stanford. But what we mean by knowledge is most current information interacted with Islamic sources of revelation and Sunnah, leading to a new understanding of that discipline. For example, if we want to talk about economics, we must read most recent literature. Not just Adam Smith and Paul Samuelson, but Nobel Prize winners in economics. Having read them, what we discover is a capitalist mindset looking on economic problem of man and providing a capitalistic answer for the problems. Having understood that, our job is to go to Quran and Sunnah and find out what kind of economic activity and endeavor is expected by the Quran and Sunnah. What's halal and haram? Does the Quran and Sunnah allow for an entrepreneur to go to a bank and get a loan and pay interest on that, or become part of an economy which is run on purely principle of exploitation and oppression? Big fish swallowing small fish. Should that be followed, or different principle? Which means, having known what is capitalist economy, now the task of the Kulliyah and its teachers and professors is to dig into the Quran and Sunnah, tafaqquh fi din, and then trying to come up with how Islam creates a balanced system of economy where zakah, sadaqat, infaq, and rizq halal, that rizq, that production which is based on ethics and morality, not just on consumerism, not just a matter of entrepreneurs developing his own dynasty, but a matter of serving Allah's servants, huququl ibad. When all these aspects are integrated, then we have integration of knowledge, or a holistic approach where it's not just spirituality. Unfortunately, in various parts of the world, when we talk about Islam, people think it's only spirituality. That you make some azkar, you make some qiyamul layl, you make some sadaqat, and at the same time remain a part of oppressive economic system, unjust political system, unfair legal system. Now, this is not what the Quran wants. And this is what we never thought. What we thought was our legal graduate should know definitely what is common law, but at the same time he should know what is the basis of law in Islam. The Quran is not only providing law or ahkam, but also providing principles of law, jurisprudential principles. And after knowing all that, a person can apply those in building a new legal theory, a new legal system, and a codification based on Sharia. Who can do it? Can thus graduates of the so-called prevalent education system do it? Who think and judge based on what they have read from Princeton and Harvard? Or those who have read Princeton and Harvard, but at the same time, they have understood the Quran and Sunnah and the Muslim scholars who contributed their thought in those areas. Therefore, Kulliya's task from day one was that we produce teachers, not students, produce teachers who are always improving their knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. And at the same time, they are also coming up with the most modern knowledge. So when these two aspects are put together, only then we can do the task properly. Secondly, the idea was that what we produce should not fall in the existing categories. Existing categories are those of Orientalism, where you pick up a manuscript and say this manuscript has not been translated into Bhasa Malayo or not in Turkish or in Urdu or in English, and translate that with some footnotes. This is what is Orientalism. Or based on the notions of Orientalism, talk about the Orient as a mysterious area full of magical and strange phenomena. Similarly, it's not a matter of apologetics that you very humbly submit that our intellectual masters, we also have some submissions from Islam, and Islam provides some beautiful aspects which you may kindly like to listen and understand. No apologies. Islam does not need defense from anyone. No defense is needed. Islam by itself is truth and will remain truth. Thirdly, not to reduce Islam to certain specific positions or do some kind of reductionist approach where Islam is reduced to simply fiqh, reduced simply to tafsir, reduced simply to kalam, but develop a holistic view of Islam, where you are not just following the Mu'tazila or any other school of thought, but you are following the Quran and Sunnah. And lastly, to make sure that whatever we want to produce has a dynamic approach of moving Muslim Ummah, not putting it to sleep, but to wake it up. And therefore we thought that Kulliya will be able to generate scholarship among teachers and through them among students. Yet, it's not just a matter of academic discussion. Islam is not academic discipline. Islam is the way of life. And unless an instructor, a teacher, is by himself or herself a role model of Quran and Sunnah, the person's speech, the person's thinking, the person's behavior, the person's smiling, everything has to confirm with what the Quran and Sunnah want. That, in one single word, is what we call tarbiyah. A teacher has to be a murabbi, has to be a mentor, has to be a person towards whom students look for guidance, come for advice. And he is always loving, sympathetic, and available. If a teacher is not a murabbi and has 5 impact factor papers published, he has failed in understanding the objective of education. Education does not mean impact factor alone, but it means transformation of one's own self and transformation of students and transformation of society. Education is the tool of change in any society. And if education is value-free and has no concept of what life is and has no objective of life, then you will have only an anarchy, only greed, only people who are after money and power and positions. But if you want to have a humanity which is concerned about other human beings, if you want to have an ikha, a brotherhood of Muslims, where, as the hadith says, when one part of body of Muslim ummah has some problem or pain, the other part feels it. If you want to create that situation, it cannot be done by following conventional education, which is delivered in most of universities of the Muslim world. It can only be done when the ethical content, when the legal content, when the social content, when the economic content of the Quran and Sunnah becomes part of curricula, part of teaching, part of a discourse in every single area of specialization. So the idea of the Kulliya was to produce such students and graduates who will integrate these two things. And with that integration, when they will produce literature, research works, that will represent the spirit and soul of Kulliya. We always thought this Kulliya should excel. We always thought this Kulliya should be ranked highest in academic production. We always thought this Kulliya should be ranked highest in human feelings. If in Sabah or Sarawak, someone is facing a problem, then it is the responsibility of the mainland island people who should go and help. No ocean in between or mountain in between should be a barrier. They should be a response to needs. This is briefly the concept of holistic knowledge on which the Kulliya was founded. And this is how the founding persons, myself, Professor Kamal, Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman, all of us were unanimous on it, and that's how we started our journey. And I am sure that with the persons like Hazizan and Shukran and many others who were present when we were putting foundations of this kulliyah, we will continue the same spirit, the same dream, the same long-term strategy, and this kulliyah will inshallah provide not only Malaysia but the whole of Muslim Ummah, those leaders of thought who are fully aware of objectives of Sharia, objectives of mankind, who are fully aware of meaning of life, objective of life, and who will be able to become role model as professionals in so many branches of knowledge. May Allah bless you all. I indicated in the beginning I will not take more than 20 minutes, but I have taken around 30 minutes, and I will be glad to respond to your questions as critical as possible, disagreements as sharp as possible, and that's how we can continue our interaction.
Thank you very much, Professor Anis, for a very enlightening talk. And I think our mind, our soul, and our understanding of what the kuliah means, all this have been re-energized through the thoughts and also sharing of experiences. I am not sure whether I have to say a few words on what you have mentioned just now, but maybe I will have to reserve until the end of this, because I want to give as many, to give to the participants to ask a question so that we can interact with you. But basically, talking about integrated knowledge, basically the need for not only creating knowledge based on the principles of Islam guided by Wahyu, but to disseminate knowledge, and we must go beyond considering what we gain, what we teach to be merely academic exercises, fulfilling certain professional requirements as lecturer, writings, doing research, and so on. But I would assume and guess that as much as the very idea of coming up with integrated knowledge is to bring society to what Muslims were once during the peak Islamic civilization period. So same thing, we should view the context in which we hope to be able to contribute to the society, nurturing our generation, so that sometime in future that kind of, or that type of civilization will again be revived or developed. So so now let me allow the floor or the session to be participated by our participants here. Let me see first whether there are some questions in the chat room. Okay, I don't find it here. So then I will allow you to ask verbally. Yes, please. Anybody would like to start the ball rolling?
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me, bro? Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yes, please.
I'm very happy to see you today, to hear your voice after so long. I was in the Kuliya when you were the dean, 1994. Alhamdulillah, but we have been following you, your writings, your speeches here and there. I just wanted to say something about the concept of al-hadara. Al-hadara in Arabic is not only to have impactful influence, but also to be present, because the word hadara is from hadara. So I think, in my humble view, we have to be in the society, saving the society. We have just mentioned, not only to disseminate knowledge, but also to act with them, to help them, to be with them. Otherwise, you are not hadir, you are ghaib, you are absent. So hadara here is to be with the society, feeling the suffering of the ummah, helping them not only with knowledge, but with all kinds of assistance. So I think if you are not hadir, we should not claim that we have hadara. Integration of knowledge, assimilation of knowledge is only the result of being present with the people in the society. Today, scholars are talking about al-fiqh al-hadari. Al-fiqh al-hadari is when you are with the people, you are presenting something, you are contributing. This is my short comment, if you allow me to share it with you, Prof. Otherwise, the integration of knowledge process will not be there. So our students are not only our clients or our children that we're supposed to teach, but also to take care of. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair. When we want to create knowledge, we cannot create it unless we are present. We have to realize ground realities, how things are, but we should not be imprisoned by ground realities. We should transcend them and then build a future, keeping in view not only present, but also past. This is why in our building of future, if some people set aside Turas and just go for what is present, then we have a shortcoming in building future. Future can only be built properly when we are fully aware of present and fully aware of what has been continuous process in the past, consequences, reasons, and so on and so forth. Only then. Therefore, integration of knowledge is not just the integration of Wahi, but it's integration of all those aspects. And that's what we understand by ilm an-nafi', that knowledge which is going to be beneficial for Muslim Ummah and others as well. So I don't disagree with you, but I will only say that present alone does not solve the problem. Present is definitely the basis for any ijtihad. No ijtihad can be done without understanding what is the present situation, what is present culture, what's present customs. Everything should be fully understood. But present custom and culture cannot be the basis of building future. For that, we have to go for the ultimate knowledge of Quran and Sunnah. And at the same time, we should be very clear about what is our future target, what do we want to achieve.
Okay, thank you, Prof. And also Dr. Abdul Hamid for the question. Any more on this? I think if you go back to the very first verse of the Quran, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, then we know that this is timeless and it covers the past, the present, and the future, as long as it is bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. I think the benefiting from the past and also what is developed in the present to be blended together for the future benefit of our future generation will certainly be the universal mission of a Muslim, I guess, in my humble opinion. Yes, anybody?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam
wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Prof, for the presentation. Jazakumullah khairan. My question goes thus, based on some of the explanations you give us about integration and Islamization. You are fully aware and well aware about the structure of our Kuliya, especially in terms of research. Some of us were from IRK mainstream, while some of us are from human sciences mainstream. So in the approach of integration and Islamization, for example, in Usul al-Fiqh, I want to see something in psychology. I want to do something in sociology, but that's not my mainstream. But somebody also in mass communication wants to do something from Islamic perspective. So we always have these challenges of this tending towards my mainstream when I'm writing, when I'm doing research. Do you advise that in the process of integration, we most likely better to collaborate? Or individually, I can do whatever I need to do. For example, I want to do something in sociology, but I know it's not my field. Do I necessarily need to bring somebody from that area down into my research, or I just do my independent reading in sociology? Because we need to integrate this. And this has come to be the main idea. So the dimensions, the backgrounds of that study in sociology, people in that area are better, but I also want to do something in that area. So do we go for integrations like, for anything you want to do in integration, you must bring somebody from that area. Fas'al ahla dhikri, what we say, or else I can just keep reading on my own. Of course, that will have another challenge. So I want to see your thought in this area of independent studies and collaborations in achieving integration and Islamization in our writings and research. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. First of all, I appreciate your question. Very simply, my approach is that of interdisciplinary research. We should have different disciplines properly involved in any research. If you are doing research in sociology and you are not aware of usul al-fiqh, your research will be incomplete. Therefore, someone who is from usul fiqh background must develop personal knowledge of sociology to the extent that he is fully aware of what is the meaning of society, what is the meaning of law, what is the meaning of family, what are social issues and problems, and is social evolution or social constructs are the basis of truth, or truth is independent of social constructs. At least that much sociology must be known by the person who is from usul fiqh background. When you know that much sociology, you can deal with a social issue in collaboration with a person who is professor of sociology, and same professor of economics. But to collaborate with someone in economics, you should know basics of economics. What's the meaning of capital? What's the meaning of development? What's the meaning of investment? What's the meaning of distribution? What's the meaning of strategy, sustainable development, and so on and so forth? Unless you know basic concepts, you cannot deal. So having basic knowledge is a must. Added to that, definitely has to be collaboration. I do not believe in a solo research in one single area. Secondly, since you are from usul fiqh stream, I firmly believe that usul fiqh is not for people who want to learn about fiqh, but usul fiqh is basic methodology which is required for any humanities or social sciences or even applied sciences. If a medical doctor does not know usul fiqh, he cannot make proper surgery. A physician cannot give proper medication without knowing usul fiqh. He must know where to draw a line between halal and haram. He must know what is makruh. But that is not just fiqh. That is usul. What makes something makruh? What makes something halal? What makes something haram? Unless a person knows those usul, those principles, which are not confined to those classical 5, but there are many more. So unless all these aspects are fully understood by someone who is graduate of Kulliya Sharia in Usul Fiqh, then you cannot have research. So both areas should be at least at a minimum level grasped. And then you start your interdisciplinary research where you can involve anyone you like. Is that clear to you?
Brother, is it clear to you? Okay, if we take silence means agreement, I guess that is okay. Maybe I may relate a little bit to the missions of this kuliah we have developed earlier. Given the structure of the kuliah, where we have under the same roof 2 wings. One is IRK, Islamic Review and Knowledge. The other one is Human Science. So one wing cannot fly. I mean, if we have this, but we must work out in such a way that how the the 2 wings communicate. And this brings us to the first mission, that is integration. And certainly, the idea of integration of these 2, the merits of the 2 broad orientation and discipline is not something straightforward. There are times when things are straightforward, but there are so many areas which require research and innovation. So that is why, and certain areas, like, for example, the human science wing or division, the word that we use for is human science because it is mainly based on modern knowledge. Therefore, the task that we have to do more is Islamization. We use the word Islamization for making modern science, what you call it, to be within the Islamic epistemological framework. But for Islamic review knowledge, we use the word relevantization, how to make the knowledge that this time we have relevant to the current situation and so on. So, and then for both, we have to do more research. That's why I think the fourth mission that we have crafted last time was research and innovation in both areas. So we have the first mission is integration. The second mission is Islamization. The third mission is relevantization. And the fourth mission is research and innovation in human science as well as in IRK, or what we can call II, RR. Just like UIA, we have IIICE. So in this university, we have II, or in this kuliah, we have II, RR. I think this take care of all the gray areas which require interdisciplinary research and so on, as mentioned by Prof. I think this is just to add to what you have mentioned, Prof. I agree with what you have said just now. So I think we have, according to my watch, 5 more minutes to go before we let our professor to rush to the mosque for Friday prayer. Yes, any? Dr. Jamal Ahmad Badi, please, your turn. Could be the last question for this session. Yes, please.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So
very
glad
pleased.
to see you. So
Yeah,
glad to see you.
Me too. Prof, when I joined in 94, you were the dean at that time.
Yes,
and I was
yes.
honored.
I remember.
Yes. Barakallahu fikum. Prof, just I would like also to share one comment. We are witnessing for the last about 4 or 5 years a new aspect of integration of knowledge at IUM, and that is the textbook. Now I am one of the committee members with both IUM and IIIT. supervising the coming up with the textbooks in all disciplines, alhamdulillah, and it's moving. So I'd like also to share with you, alhamdulillah, a lot has been done last year, or by the end of this year, we are going to have about 24 textbooks, and
MashaAllah.
and we have about 50 books, textbooks for the about 1 year to go by the end of next year. So in all, alhamdulillah, in all disciplines. And I believe this is a very important move and aspect of the integration. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Prof.
No, I'm very glad to hear that and pray to Allah for your success. And
Amen.
please share with me the work you have done and what you are doing on my email.
Inshallah.
I'll appreciate very much.
Inshallah. Inshallah.
Thank you, Professor Jamal, for sharing this and for informing our professor as well. So as requested, you can share with Prof later
Inshallah.
what we have produced and so on. I think we have come to the end of this session. Before I hand over this session to the organizer, maybe I will take 1 or 2 minutes just to pick a few points that I think they are important. So firstly is regarding the roles of academics in this. Professor has based his explanation on one verse of the Quran, Surah Tawbah, verse 122. Then he has identified the 4 important areas for us to look at when we talk about the roles of academics. So you can go through these 4 that Prof has mentioned. But following that, then we have been enlightened with the idea of integration of knowledge, the need for integrated knowledge, the knowledge that is that takes into account the roles of wahyu and also al-kawn. Normally in literature also we have been informed about reading 2 readings, a reading of the wahyu and also reading of the al-kawn, or the 2 types of sunnatullah. Both need to be read together. So we cannot, for example, read al-wahyu or al-Quran ignoring the other side, and the kawn, which currently happen to have appeared in the form of various sciences, natural sciences, social sciences, humanities, and so on. They cannot be left as they are, because there are many areas which require critical revisiting in order for them to be in line with, firstly, Islamic worldview, and more specifically with Islamic epistemology, because Islamic epistemology basically demands that we consult all these sources of knowledge, and in knowledge development and creation, the processes and also the aspects must be guided by the divine revelation. Now, once we have already not only we are clear about what is meant by knowledge in the Islamic context, but that kind of knowledge need to be disseminated, and more importantly, that knowledge should benefit us either now or in future. But if you go back to the background that led to the Muslims, or the proposal of the contemporary Muslim academia for reviving the spirit of advancement in the past. So what we do should not be confined to the benefit that we gain today, but should also be able to eventually develop into a civilization in future. And if that can be done, then I think our contribution as the present generation and the future generations will be more meaningful. So with that, I would like to thank Prof for your time, for your thoughts and sharing of experiences. We certainly will meet you again in other
Inshallah.
opportunities, inshallah. So with that, I would like to apologize for any shortcomings during the conduct of this session. And I end with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I hand over the session back to the organizer. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, Dr. Hadizan. I don't know if you may accept, but there is a pending question in the chat. Maybe in 1 minute or two before we conclude, you place it to our speaker. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, brother. I resume my role as the moderator now because I forgot to look back at the chat room. So let me see here. Can respected professor suggest some ways on how maybe how to help researchers of Islamic science departments and human sciences to cooperate in doing research? Is it clear to you, Prof, this question?
Well, if I understand correctly,
Yeah.
the person wants to know in social sciences and human sciences and reveal knowledge, how we can bring a collaboration. The answer is very simple. You have to arrange for forums where people with different background sit together and address current issues with their own perspectives. And in this way, they will realize that purely a perspective that is confined to contemporary Western thought cannot resolve the issue. And similarly, a person who has read a text about such issues 500 years back cannot apply same solution everywhere. And we have to come up with something new, which is the purpose of intellectual discourse. So I'm sure that if people from humanities and reveal knowledge and other areas, they develop a regular forum every month, a forum where they address certain emerging issues. There are so many emerging issues dealing with human rights, dealing with gender, dealing with economic and political crisis globally, and so on and so forth. So any of the issues can be taken up, and then people from both backgrounds sit together and explore, and then develop joint projects. When they develop joint projects, that will lead to research which is based on disciplines working together.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I think we used to have this last time, these regular discourses almost on weekly basis to update ourselves, firstly, what is taking place nowadays, and then try together collectively to connect to the principles of Islam. I think it's a very nice idea, very good. I think every department under the Kuliah should consider this idea seriously. Maybe as for the frequency, they can decide whether weekly or monthly or whatever, or occasionally, something like this. Thank you, Prof. Very good idea for us to consider. I think that is all, Brother Imran. I hand over back to you, the session. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Hadizan, for moderating the session. And thank you, Prof. Anis, for the wonderful talk that has enriched us all. May Allah bless you and all of us for this beautiful initiative.
Ameen.
Now we have
Ameen.
come to the end of the session. We truly appreciate your participation in this special session, and please forgive us for any shortcomings throughout this session. With that, we end the session with Hadith, Qur'an, and Surah As-Asl. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Thank you so much, Prof. And also
Thank you very much.
والتوفيق والهدية والسلام
شكراً.
عليكم ورحمة